Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, The Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I'm your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors. It's your Breakfast Bankroll Midday Market Report, Big 10 preview. That's right, we finally came to this weekend. First and foremost, hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. They are now out of their food coma. They survived the day. Kind of comical, the NFL, where the whole world was on the Bills. The whole world was on the Lions. I'm sorry, the Bills and the Cowboys, excuse me there. And Lions, hell of a battle. And I guess everyone's complaining about Coach Campbell and Goff missed a wide open pass that they could have won the game. But the Bills do what they have done of late. They win the game and not cover. In comes Dallas, down 13-7, 3 straight touchdowns, 28-13. And people all around the world rejoicing. Cowboys -10 in the under. Woo, woo! I saw people even grading them as wins. Trent. And what happens? Backdoor Little Joe for the cover and the over. Now comes the finale, where I all week talked about the whole world on the Patriots. Why the whole world on the Patriots? Bill Belichick, short week. Look what happened to Minnesota against Dallas, 40-3. Oh, Kirk Cousins in prime time. Well, the ECSI VIPs, we had the Vikings money line. Now listen, was Henry's catch a touchdown? Most likely it is, but in today's NFL, it really wasn't. It kind of reminded me of Dez, where ball over, hand under, but that little bobble right there kind of made me think that it wasn't, but I don't care. I cashed the ticket. And then we take Bama over Michigan State. That line made no sense to me in hoops. It opened up at 3.5, and look at who Michigan State has played, never mind beat. I think it went up to 4.5. Great game, up and down action there. But we're here to talk Big Ten, and I heard there's a pretty big game coming up tomorrow at noon. And last but not least, before I bring in our co-host Riley, I've seen this a million times. I just want everyone here to take note. Tulane is playing Cincinnati today. And listen, Tulane has had an amazing season. I didn't understand the opening number, Cincinnati -3. It only could go one way. Well, 15 minutes before kickoff, Cincinnati starting QB out. In comes the Tulane money. They go from +3 to -1. I've seen this a million times. Me and Riley talked about this week in the MAC game. They go run into the window. Give me Tulane. Give me. And you don't see them walking back to the window to cash those tickets. Now, I'm not saying Tulane doesn't win. I've been rooting for them all year. Cincinnati has proven the last couple of years they're here, they belong. It's supposed to be a grind them out fest. Under-over is down to 43.5, 44. So just keep an eye on that. So much action to talk about. Bring him in. Southside Riley himself, Mr. Riley Magnuson. Morning, sir.
Morning, my friend. Happy Friday afternoon. Happy Friday. I guess not quite afternoon on my part of the world yet. So good morning still over here. But I am pumped to be here. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family and everyone watching. Hope it was a fantastic day, and now hopefully a fantastic weekend if you still got plans going on. So I am beyond excited. This is, as far as not only we've got a huge Big Ten, a couple of huge Big Ten football games, one today even that is worth talking about if you care about the Big Ten West. And then even some good Big Ten basketball games today as well. So I'm excited to talk about that. And then, we'll see where else the show takes us. We got plenty of other action to talk about as well. So I'm ready to rock and roll, my friend. It is the biggest weekend of the Big Ten season. So I'm ready to rock and roll.
Were you poo-pooing my Cornhuskers?
No, of course not.
Oh, okay. I thought that that has a lot of implications. We do
It
know
does.
that,
No,
right?
that wasn't sarcasm. You know me with my Big Ten West. I'm being serious. I care.
Okay.
It could set up. Shoot, it could set up if your Huskers help us out. Illinois, Purdue, whoever, it could help set up. 2 games to go from meaningless to actually worse something tomorrow. So I'm hoping I'm rooting for your Cornhuskers as an Illinois fan over here, my friend. So no, I am certainly not poo-pooing them today.
Before we dive in, it hasn't been talked about by the national media. And I think it hasn't been talked about because they don't want to see it. And I don't come here to tout Colin Cowherd. I mean, he's got a big enough platform and stage. He doesn't need to hear his. But I saw his little TikTok or whatever it is, and it was brought up. Now, a lot has to happen here. But shame, shame, shame. You do realize that very simply this week, let's just say you get an Ohio State blowout because let's say the Michigan back doesn't play.
Sure.
Okay, which is a big part of that game. Okay. USC is a 4.5, 5-point favorite against a red hot Notre Dame team. There's number 2. We know TCU's been living and knocking on, these last second comebacks and whatever. That's number 3. Okay. Tennessee's already out. And let's just say Georgia absolutely lays the hammer on LSU.
Yeah.
And I guess the last thing I said, Clemson. Well, let me stop right there. I'm going to stop before. If Clemson wins, then I guess ACC title they're in. But where I was going with this is you do know the door is still open for Alabama, don't you?
To some degree, to some degree, it is. I don't know what I didn't hear the TikTok or whatever you were mentioning, so I'm not. I was a little off on. I'm not sure what he was talking about there, but yeah, there's plenty more to be played out than most people are giving credit for. What was he saying though?
He says basically, in a perfect world, I mean, it's not. Listen, I'm not saying LSU is a pick 'em against Georgia. They're 15-point underdogs.
Right.
So obviously, if LSU wins and beats Georgia, they'll be the first two-loss team to make the Final Four. They're in. There's no doubt about it. But the way the rankings are set up, because Ohio State or Michigan, one of them is going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a hard-fought last-second field goal, well, whoever loses still has an opportunity to get in. The fact of the matter is that Bama is just sitting there at 7, and there's nothing else that he can do other than beat up on Auburn and sit, pray, and wait. But there is a way where they're back into the discussion, and basically Colin was just trying to remind everyone here, just don't, are they going to make the Final Four? Most likely not, but their 2 losses are by a total of 4 points, both on the road, both last second.
Right. And as far as TCU is concerned, I mean, the people don't want to put them in if they're undefeated, let alone if they get 1 loss. So you get 1 loss for them, they're tossed, right? And like you said, Michigan gets smoked by Ohio State. Who do you take? A 1-loss Michigan team who looks great but got smoked by Ohio State or Alabama? I guess that would probably be the biggest conversation there. And then, yeah, you said it, LSU lose, and then you would need the help. Yeah, you would need USC to lose and maybe UNC to beat Clemson, and then the door, which it's like you said, is that likely? Absolutely not. But I've probably, maybe not in college, I don't know. I've seen crazier things in sports than a 2-loss Alabama team getting some favoritism in that regard. So I guess I don't know. Would you? I guess I'll ask that question before we get moving. Would you take? Let's say Ohio State puts up a 50 burger on Michigan State, 52-20, and Alabama smokes Auburn. Who are you taking? The 1-loss Michigan or the 2-loss Alabama right there?
Well, I've been saying this for a long, long time. If Michigan finds a way to stun Ohio State, I think this year alone, a one-loss Ohio State team will eke out an Alabama team just
Yeah,
because of their firepower, just because of who they've been all
yeah,
year. That's just my take.
I
Now,
agree.
Michigan has been a top 5 or 6 team all year. I didn't think they'd get back there. They did. So that's going to be the big, again, you need a lot to happen because I think the public really doesn't want a one-loss Clemson team in there, to be honest with you. It's not a fun team this year.
No, I don't want them in there. I'd rather have USC or yeah, any of these other teams. I agree because I just looking at the ACC, you start to see a couple of these teams start to have some nice rankings on them, 2, 3 loss teams, and you're like, I've watched this team. That team stinks. What are we talking about here? I mean, I won't name names off the top of my head, but yeah, maybe we'll get there this afternoon when we talk about some of these games. But no, I totally agree that the ACC was not impressive enough in Clemson. Yeah, Notre Dame is 3 losses. Had they had a different start to the season, maybe they're in the conversation somehow. But Notre Dame beat the pants off of Clemson. That was all I needed to see. The final nail in the coffin for me, at least, in my perception of Clemson. So I hope Clemson does not get in because I think any of these, as 6 or 7 of these teams would smoke Clemson in a playoff game. So I hope it's not Clemson.
And they were talking about this Ohio State team where now all of a sudden, they early in the year they lose to Ohio State there, but then they beat a Clemson, and if they beat a USC, then all of a sudden people are starting to say, and then that's where if Michigan beats Ohio State, the Ohio State Packers are going to say, "Hey, you see what we did to Notre Dame early in the year?" So it's one way the other.
Yeah, and it's obviously it's woulda, coulda, shoulda. But I mean, if you think about like just the hypothetical, Notre Dame really giving Ohio State a tough test, and then if they had avoided the ugly losses to Marshall and Stanford, they'd be absolutely in this conversation, which is crazy, especially with the way they've been playing. They weren't very good to start the season, but now, I mean, you take this team and restart the season, they, maybe a similar game against Ohio State, and then I think they sheet the rest of the way and be a one-loss team that we'd be forced to talk about in this conversation right now. But obviously, that's not the case.
Big Ten basketball, Big Ten football. I'm going to allow you to decide where you want to start. This is your show. This is your platform. Last night, the ECSI VIPs were blessed with a Alabama Crimson Tide ticket against Michigan State. Again, I was surprised with the opening number, and then you could just see where the public was going to take this. Again, looking at who Michigan State has played, who they have beaten, and who their only loss was leading up to that. They've been on all these primetime games, yet an Alabama team who again is ranked real high, live and die by the 3. Opened up 3.5 point favorites and went right to 4.5. So I think that was a classic, pros versus Joes. Yeah. Hey, you're going to give me the Spartans, Coach Izzo, plus 4.5, 5 points against Alabama?
Yeah. And we talked about it. They kind of exceeded my expectations, maybe yours as well. Michigan State, with the way they opened up the season, they obviously had a gauntlet of a schedule. It was going to catch up to them at some point. And we talked about how many times have they, had big games in November or big opponents in November and kind of struggled through it. And then, obviously that kind of cuts their teeth a little bit and gets them ready for the Big Ten schedule and then the tournament, which I really respect. But I was surprised at the way to start. So I didn't have action on it. I left it on the desk. But I was curious to see what your thoughts are on them today as well. But yesterday like I said, you took it to the window for us. I didn't have it, but I was thinking the same thing. I just left it on the desk for myself there.
All right, the slate is yours. Have at it.
All righty, let's go to the college football schedule first. I would assume the people are looking for some college football action first. We'll save the best for last. However, there is one today that you mentioned on Nebraska and Iowa. If Iowa wins, they are representing the Big Ten West up against Ohio State or Michigan, much to most people's chagrin. But of course, if you watch this Iowa offense, you would not be surprised to see them laying an egg against any team in the Big Ten here. So I'm curious your thoughts here, Jeff. 10.5. The team, I was, like I said, I'm not a diehard Illinois fan, but I do like Illinois football. Hoping that we can get some, at least some excitement tomorrow and a little bit of hope tomorrow. Team total for Iowa at 24.5 Is that a big enough indicator for you that Iowa's offense is going to have a decent day and not be the ugly, stinky Iowa offense that everyone knows and hates?
What do you have for both team totals again?
I see, and I guess on points bet it's 24 on the dot, but in a lot of places I see 24.5 for Iowa and then 13.5 for Nebraska.
So first instinct is, again, the 13.5 is not a go over for Nebraska. That means it's basically the bait and switch where the mind says, well, they're going to get to 14 or better. That's just 2 touchdowns. They'll probably be stuck on stupid between 10 and 13. Now, when I see a 24.5 number, again, the public is wired to say, okay, we know Iowa's offense stinks. They just play ground and pound. They just play field position, yada, yada, yada. They just want to get in, win, and then get ready for next Saturday. So 24.5 for Iowa, for me, is a go number. That's a go number. Now, the last time I did an Iowa team total, listen, if I can go Iowa team total over 17.5 against Michigan, I should be able to go to the window with 2 hands against Nebraska at 24.5.
I 100% agree with you. I was hoping as an Illinois fan that these are some BS indicators, but I agree with you, man. No, and Iowa's defense has been fantastic. You're not going to surprise me if you tell me that they'll hold Nebraska under 2 touchdowns. That's not going to surprise me at all. And we've seen Nebraska's defense themselves, and held Wisconsin to 15 last week, but as we talked about, every once in a while you get a stinky performance from Wisconsin's offense. So, would it surprise me if Iowa's offense is inept and wins 15-14 just like that last game, or 13? No, it wouldn't surprise me, but I'm 100% with you. If especially if you put it in that terms, if you can go to the window at over 17.5, you should be able to go at 24. I agree with you completely. It hurts me to say, but I think they get it done today, and in fairly convincing fashion, probably, in my opinion. Here.
Let me just pull this one for us here. Give you a 36.5 with a 10, and it's now up to 38.
That total too, kind of like 38. Obviously, 30s people think like, oh, that's going to be a nasty, stinky game. If it was going to be the real low scoring game, I mean, what was last week's total? 31.5 against Minnesota. The fact that it's up in the high 30s with Iowa makes me think, their offense is going to be either Nebraska's defense is going to be horrendous today, like we've seen, or Iowa's offense is going to, take it to them. So yeah, I think Iowa's offense has a nice way of putting them some points today.
Yeah, and through the Cornhusker pipelines and the social media, they talk a good game. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have linked them to Matt Rule. And I think they just want to get the hell out of Dodge, get the season over with. Of course, the naysayers are saying they're holding out for Urban Meyer. I don't think Urban's going anywhere. But the Matt Rule is real interesting, intriguing. Listen, he had some great success in college. Like some of these other coaches decided they wanted to go to the NFL. He got paid, and he's a rich gentleman now. But they can't sit still. Go enjoy, go do this, go do this. They want to get back in. I don't know. I don't have a strong – is it a good hire if Rule? I think he brings the rah-rah, the no-nonsense to the Cornhuskers. Is it the right name? I don't know. I don't think it is.
You know what? We had this conversation. Is it going to get them into the, the glory days of up in that? No, I don't think so. But, I mean, I have a lot of respect for Matt Rule and was kind of holding out that he might do it in the NFL, and obviously it just wasn't the right fit, kind of just the, good fit college, bad fit NFL. The optimistic spot, as if you're hiring Matt Rule, he's got 2 different cases where he inherits basically a dumpster fire. First season, 1 or 2 wins or whatever. Then the next season is the 7-8 win season, and then the third season is 10-11 wins. He's done that two times in a row. Temple and inherited one of the worst situations that we've seen over the last 15 years, and Baylor after the Art Briles situation. So I think it would be a good hire if you're trying to get into that 8-9 win territory, like the Iowa-Wisconsin territory of the Big Ten, which is better than what they've had, obviously. But yeah, to get them, it's not it's not the flashy lights type hire that's going to get you into the 10, 11, 12 win seasons. But unless that's available, I think it's a decent hire as far as at least comparatively. What their other options are. I think it would be a decent hire.
Yeah, and just looking at the landscape of the Big Ten, I mean, obviously Ohio State's not going anywhere, and as long as Harbaugh stays in Michigan, they're not going anywhere. Then there's a gap, and listen, Franklin at Penn State has done wonders there.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going anywhere, but they still got work to do to get to Ohio
Yeah.
State and Michigan. But the rest is, your Purdue's, your Iowas of the world.
Yeah.
Wisconsin back down, struggling, showed some flashes. They're on the way back, but I think you need to take the first or second step to get back to dominance in that tier of, 4, 5, 6. I mean, listen, Illinois, great story this year. Minnesota came out guns a-blazing. We talked about them for weeks. They've kind of faded into the abyss. There's a lot of work to be done. So maybe Matt Rule is that guy, especially with the transfer portal. It doesn't take as long as the fourth and fifth year like it used to.
Right, and I'm interested to see as we bring in the Pac-12 schools and expand what the division outlook is going to be looking like. Because if he comes into the Big Ten West and he's got to be licking his chops, like all it takes is maybe 8-9 wins and I can get into the Big Ten championship every single game. Like, yeah, sign me up. But obviously, we'll see if that's I doubt it's going to be still that similar case, or maybe it's You add the 2 Pac-12 teams into the Big Ten West, or one go. I don't know. So I think it's a decent hire. Not going to get you to the glory days, but I think it's going to get you out of the cellar if that's the move that is made for Nebraska there.
And I totally forgot. Does that start next year?
I don't know for sure. I want to say not next year, but I could be totally wrong. I want to say 2024, but I'm not. Okay. I'm not positive. I could be wrong.
Geez. You're adding a USC.
That would be a quick turnaround, but I could be wrong.
You're adding a USC, which is with Lincoln Riley. One loss. Their only loss this year was on a 2-point conversion at Utah, so they were close to a perfect season. And UCLA with Chip Kelly. I mean, listen, they're 8 wins. They got a great offense. They're not going to blow you away defensively, and it's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, just ask Nebraska. They left the Big 12 to come to the Big 10. Yeah. They haven't had one of those glory years. And so now you add 2 Pac-12 teams that like to play offense and defense is secondary. Now you're coming into the Big 10. And can you imagine these West Coast teams traveling to a Wisconsin, traveling to a Penn State, in December? They're like, holy shit, where's my surfboard?
I know. Or the early 11 a.m. noon game at Evanston Northwestern, which they are switching their stadium, so it might not be the funeral home for those noon games like it has been. We'll see. But which I don't know if you've seen the renderings, but the new stadium outlook for them looks really nice. But anyways, let's move. You know what? Let's move on to them right now. Illinois and Northwestern. If Iowa loses today, the Illinois and Purdue games set up to where if Purdue wins, they are the team representing the Big Ten West. If Iowa and Purdue loses and Illinois wins, then it's Illinois going. Obviously not likely, but I can dream over here. And this is not the early game. This is 2:30 game, my time, 3:30 your time. And there'll probably be a decent amount of Illinois fans there. So it might even be more of a home atmosphere for Illinois here. Football and basketball, when the Illinois Illini are playing really well, the fan base shows out there. So not saying they're going to pack it, but it's going to be a decent amount of orange there. 14.5, though. I don't know what quite to make of this one. I would expect Illinois' defense to have a really, really nice performance here against Northwestern. And you would expect Illinois' offense to have fine enough opportunities against Northwestern. But I could see this one landing right on 14. I don't know. What about you? Where are your thoughts with this one?
Usually this week, Thanksgiving week, unders. You see a lot of these low totals. A number of 13-37. Now it's 14.5 is the consensus with the 38.5. Another team that wins the first game of the year, of course, in Ireland against my Cornhuskers, and nowhere to be found the rest of the year. A lot of points, especially with a 38, but I can't see what's Northwestern's team total at about 10 and a hook.
I see 11.5.
Yeah. So again, do they get to 13 or are they stuck on stupid at 10 or less? Illinois, did they give them the 24 and a half?
I see 26, and again, this one is, I don't have it's Illinois, yada, yada, but I see 26 and a half is the only one I see here.
So basically, in a nutshell, they're telling you 24 to 10. That's what they're telling you, most likely. I definitely think Illinois wins. I think it's Northwestern's bowl game. They want
Yeah,
to be spoiler. It's just going to be an ugly game.
yeah.
One that I will have no action in.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you on that one. I'm hoping it's worth something and not a total nonsense game for Illinois here. So, let's see. Rutgers and Maryland. Man, the wheels have fallen off of this Maryland train here. Obviously, played 3 tough opponents, but and they gave Ohio State a good run for their money. Don't get me wrong there. Obviously, they did. But now 6-5. They're going to a bowl game, trying to secure a 7-win season here, though. At home against Rutgers. 14-point favorite there for Maryland. I would lean towards Maryland having a nice offensive day again, but it wouldn't surprise me if every 2 or 3 weeks Rutgers defense pitches a 20 point or less a game. So I don't know if that's what you expect here. 49 total. I don't know. Are you thinking Rutgers is scrappy in this game and maybe a little bit live, or is this a Maryland blowout? I only see it either closer or Maryland by 30, honestly.
Well, I got a 50 and a 14 to start. It's down to 48 and a 14. I don't. The more and more we work here, the more and more I keep the emotional, the must wins. I try to keep all that outside the door with my heart and my ego. Okay. If you just look just at last week and the effort that this Maryland team put forth, and the coach just going ballistic, they got a couple bad calls. They were right there. And I'm telling you, they played their asses off. In comes Rutgers, and it's just I can't see them getting to that level. It's almost impossible. So I think the 14 points is a gift. Again, I do see a 50. When I see a 50 and then I see it being bet down to 48, that means the public is saying, no, that's way too many points. So I would maybe lean the over here with a combined effort for both teams kind of playing this one out. As you said, Maryland going to a bowl. Rutgers, this is their bowl. So
yeah, and Rutgers offense when they haven't had the big boys, the big defenses of the Big Ten, they've been able to put up 20 points or so. So I won't have action on it, but this one could be a little more interesting than people are giving it credit for sure here. Let's see. I already went to Illinois, Northwestern. Next one is Purdue and Indiana. The other game, if Iowa loses, Purdue beats Indiana. Purdue is in the championship, representing the Big Ten West. 10.5 for 10.5. Purdue minus 10.5. This is obviously a rivalry game. This one typically goes pretty back and forth. Purdue beat the brakes off of them last year, 17.5-point favorites. I don't know. This one's interesting to me. Indiana, their offense, as long as they've got a motivated team, their offense can score some points too. So I honestly lean towards maybe Indiana having a chance to keep this one close, but Indiana's defense is also pretty rough, and if Purdue's offense is firing on all cylinders, their offense should be able to put the hurt down on Indiana here. So let's see here, 32.5 for Purdue team total. Is that interested to the over there? Purdue over 32.5?
That had been a go number for us for a while. We had great success on the 32.5s. Here's how I'm going to say this. We need Nebraska to beat Iowa to have this turn Saturday now into a huge day for the Big Ten. Now, if Iowa takes care of business, you don't know emotionally what these teams are going to bring to the table. Right. Again, I'm looking at actual opening numbers here, and it was a 55.5 and 11. It's already been bet down to 53. So if this game means something for Purdue, I would take the over. I would take that team total, especially. Indiana's defense has not been good. They can move the ball. They do show some flashes on offense. Yeah. If it's a meaningless game for Purdue, again, I think I just got to back off.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fair point there. And Indiana, if that's the case, But this is, like you said, with Northwestern, this kind of becomes their bowl game against an in-state rival as well, though. So, yeah, I would wait until, the outcome of that Iowa game for sure. I'm with you on that one. Minnesota and Wisconsin, another big rivalry game. 3.5-point favorite, Wisconsin at home here. 35.5, 36 total. This one's tricky. I could see this one. My Big Ten gut tells me this one's going to be kind of like these two teams played last week, 13-10 and 15-14. And this one stays under. But, maybe the one of these teams is due for either a huge rushing performance or a defensive touchdown or two. So I'm probably going to stay away from it. At least whenever this year, whenever Wisconsin's had what maybe you would say is a statement line of over this 3.5 or whatever it is, they've had some success. They smoked Maryland as 5-point favorites. They were favored against Purdue when Purdue was kind of at the height, and obviously took it to Purdue there. So I don't know. Is that number give you confidence in Wisconsin, or do you think these two teams are closer and maybe you take the 3.5 with Minnesota there?
What do you have for team totals?
Let's see here. 19.5 for Wisconsin, 16.5 for Minnesota there.
So it's 17-14 final.
Yeah.
Again, they're baiting you to get to 2021, and then the 16.5, they're baiting you to get to 17. Just how they've ended the season, the flashes. Listen, when you want to go against Wisconsin, of course they win and cover. Yeah. When you take them, they're nowhere to be found. I would lean Wisconsin here, but I would just stay far away.
Yeah, no, the good defenses in the Big Ten have really given this Minnesota offense trouble. I mean, Tanner Morgan, when you give him to Northwestern or Rutgers or whoever else, he's obviously had some really nice success and then early on in the season, but these 10 points against Iowa last week. It wasn't Tanner Morgan, but the rough game against Penn State. So, yeah, I'm staying away. My gut tells me this one's going to be a low-score, nasty, grimy game. I'm excited to watch this one. I like this rivalry, though. But Michigan State and Penn State, 19.5-point favorite Penn State here. Let's see, just beat Rutgers 55-10. Their offense is rolling, taking care of some of these bad defenses, which I would include Michigan State into that company. They've obviously for a while they were looking a little bit better, but 39 points in a loss to Indiana last week, which I believe was overtime, so a little extra points than you expect there. But I'm not touching Michigan State here. Offensively, I could see them putting up some points and hanging in tough, but if Penn State is motivated to get it done, I would believe in their offense. But 36.5 team total is pretty steep. Is that a statement enough that you're interested in Penn State going over that one?
I've been very successful this year with Penn State team totals. We've been grabbing the gifts, especially on the road there. I think it's an inflated number, and I think there's a little story going on in Michigan State. And again, I don't believe everything I read. It's the internet, but it sounds like the AD and the coach had a deal about bonuses, and the coach was divvying them up, and he got the $100,000 bonus. And guess what? He didn't divvy it up. He kept the whole thing. So that's what I was reading from the outside in. Listen, you dissect this Penn State team, and what they do, they lost twice to the big boys. They had a great first half in Michigan. They had opportunities to take that lead and didn't, and then they get rolled. And then, of course, they lose to Ohio State. Great year overall for them. I expect them to win. I don't expect a big push from Michigan State, who showed some flashes in the middle of the year. I think they're pretty spot on. But again, a number that opened at 51.5 and 17.5. Now it's 53.5 and 19. So both the over and Penn State are inflated. Listen, I wouldn't be shocked to see Penn State win 34, let's say 34-13. How's that sound?
Yeah, no, it wouldn't surprise me either. I'm sick of this Michigan State team, so I'm ready to get them off of my screen. But yeah, Penn State has handled the non Ohio State Michigans of the world pretty well this year. So and this we've talked about this Michigan State defense. Their secondary is rough. They don't really have much talent. And when you give a team that's got some skill, then yeah, it's pretty susceptible there. So let's see. All right, moving on to the game of the weekend in maybe all of sports. One of the biggest games of the year, obviously. Ohio State, Michigan at the shoe this time around, not the big house. 7.5. I see on DraftKings it's moved to 8. I see on Barstool even up to 9. Bet Rivers 9. Which was a similar line to last year's game, but I would say the biggest difference for me was that 80 to 90% of the entire world was all over Ohio State last year, and in a lot of cases it went from 8.5 to 7.5, despite the 80, 90%. One of the biggest public sides of the entire sports year last year was Ohio State in that game. So you and I have been pretty firm all year that Ohio State is rolling through the Big Ten. Michigan ended up being. I put them as the number 2 team, obviously, but I didn't expect them to be quite this good. However, I still firmly believe that Ohio State is out for some revenge in this one. I expect Ohio State to win. I expect them to their offense to be great. Are we riding with the Ohio State team totals over 32.5, or is there another one that you would be interested in if you're going with Ohio State? 32.5. I don't know, because I could see this one being close. I could see Ohio State putting up a huge number and running and hiding, and Michigan, doesn't have enough firepower quite enough to keep up, especially, like you said, if Blake Corum is out, that obviously hurts there. So I don't know. What were your immediate thoughts of this one? I'm not running to the window with Michigan. I was on them last year, fading the public in that spot, but I'm not running to the window with Michigan this year.
I was wrong on Michigan this year. I didn't think he'd bounce back and get back to where he is. And a lot of the experts are thinking they're a better team this year than they were last year. That's number one. Mm-hmm. Number two, this is the biggest bait I've ever seen. This Ohio State team total, I think if my 8-2, 8-3 at worst. I mean, just been a cash cow. They didn't cover the first week against Ohio State. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, against Notre Dame. And then they had a hiccup 2 weeks ago, but then they just keep cashing it. This 32 is the lowest by far. The lowest I've seen this year is 37.5 at 38. That's number one. Number two, this line all comes down to Blake. Is he playing? Is he not playing? Now, I know it's next man up. I get all that. But if Blake is leaked that he is out, this number will skyrocket to 10.5, 11 when you wake up tomorrow morning. Okay. That's number two. All week, I've been siding here with Michigan. I don't know why. I just can't get off of it. I know Ohio State's offense is the better team. I just know Michigan should be able to run the ball. Now, with that said, if Ohio State gets out early, it's going to be like watching a Penn State trying to compete against Ohio State, where you're taking out of your offensive strategy, which is to play keep away, to ground and pound. Though Harbaugh will stick to the script there. I don't know why. Okay, so you got 32.5, you said, on Ohio State. So let me just do some quick math there. So 23, so they're going to give you, Did they give you Michigan 23.5?
23.5, yep.
Which is the bait to 24. So they
game under?
They got this game at 31-23. That's your final score, which lands on 8 and under. That's the Jedi mind tricks that they're playing with you right now. I'd be more comfortable if you were playing Ohio State to take the team total over. With that said, it stinks to high heaven. I mean, just if you haven't jumped on this cash cow, this is not the game to do it.
Right.
Number one. Right. When everyone talks revenge, they had this thing circled when the schedule came out. Guys, they have this game circled every year, so it doesn't matter. Here's what I'm afraid of. If Michigan wins this game, a one-loss Ohio State team is not knocked out. And that takes away my circuit ticket for the miracle swing with Alabama, which I have it in a frame because I know there's no way we're cashing it. But anyways, Riley, I guess where I would go with this, is I'm going to take Michigan and the points. Call me stupid.
Okay. I'm not calling you stupid. I mean, certainly not. Last year it was like something's crazy here, something's messed up. I am not confident in Ohio State enough here. I'm not laying the 7.5, and the concerns of the team total for Iowa State certainly have turned me off of any interest in that. I can tell you that with certainty. I still think Ohio State wins this game, but maybe that line is more spot on than I realize. So I don't know. I'm not calling you stupid by any means. I'll say Ohio State by 10. But like you said, not only if Blake Corum is out, but if Donovan Edwards is out again, both those guys were out last week. I would imagine that at least one of them is in. Even if it's Edwards instead of Corum, everyone's going to overreact. But Edwards is he's no scrub by any means. After those two, there's a drop off for sure, and then I would be really concerned. And like you said, I think it would be that situation where they're trying to play catch up and they just don't quite have the horses at that point. But if Corum is out and Edwards is in, if this one goes up over 10, then I'm absolutely interested in Michigan because Edwards is not that big of a drop off from Corum. I know Corum is the Heisman candidate for sure, but if Edwards was the lead dog, I'd actually be confident in saying that he might be the household name that we talk about with Blake Corum right now. So I'm going to wait on some of that news. So I guess what do you expect anything to happen to this? If both of those guys are ruled in, does anything happen to this line, do you think?
100% it drops.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can get to 6.5. The magical numbers, they'll keep it at that 7. They'll play around with it. Do they get enough public money on Ohio State to 7.5? Do they get the shot? See, when both are in, this is you got to buy now and assume.
Yeah.
You can buy now, and if you were on Ohio State, there's no better time to buy earlier in the week when it was at 7.5. Now when the speculation starts coming, because you're going to get the California money come in overnight. The Texas money came in last night, and now you're going to get the California money coming in overnight tonight. So if you want Michigan, I'd be betting on the Coms saying, I think it drops. Now, if you wanted Ohio State, you're playing Russian roulette. And here's what I'm going to say here. The longer you keep this Michigan team in this game, the quieter that place gets and the more pressure it gets. We expect Ohio State to come out guns a-blazing, get up 10-0, 13-3, 20-7, case over, because Michigan now has got to throw the ball. They got to take chances. At halftime, if this is 13-10, if this is 17-13, it's basically, 30 minutes and someone's going to the big dance or an opportunity to play the sister of the poor next Saturday.
Okay. So what's the prediction? What's the official prediction score? I'll say Ohio State 31-24. That's my prediction. Which I guess I kind of stole from you a little bit, but
no, I think you're pretty spot. I think you're spot on. No, I'm going to go. $55 was the opening number. 28-27 Michigan.
Ooh. So potential game of the year as far as 28-27 there. So I could see it, man. I'll stick with Ohio State winning this one. And I would expect at least one of those guys. I mean, this is the season for Michigan, so I would expect, especially if they sat out last week, at least one or both of them, Edwards and Corum, to play, and that's going to be a factor. Like I said, if both of them are out, then there's a bit of a drop off for what they've got. But I'd be shocked if both those dudes are out in the Ohio State Michigan game there. So, anything else football before we move on to basketball, my friend?
No, again, I'm hoping the Cornhuskers shock the world so we have some real – it'd be nice to see 2 or 3 games, juggling in the West, and then obviously you got the prime guy game at 12. And I'm just going to go back for 1 second. Listen, I've said all along, in August, September, October, November, now here, Ohio State, probably the second best team in the country behind Georgia, offensively can score on anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I just know when you gave me a 32.5, it probably lands on 31 or 30.
Yeah.
I'm just playing devil's advocate. I mean, I was initially going to say 27-23 Michigan there. But again, Ohio State only scoring 23 points. That would be a travesty. They usually get that in the first quarter or first half. So I just want an exciting game. I think we're going to get one.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be, unless I've got a crazy action parlay, I don't think I'm going to have much wagered on this game. Again, if I'm going to be, it's one of those ones where I don't want to be upset losing when if it's a 28-27 classic, all-time classic, you know what I mean? And then for the rest of my life, everyone's talking about, how much of a classic this was. But I had I lost my lunch on a bet on that one. So and especially without any confidence either which way. So. I'll lean towards the Ohio State winning the game, but it would not shock me if this game is an awesome one. So, moving over to college basketball, we've got we don't have to bore everyone with the Jackson State Indiana games of the world today, but there are a couple of really good games in the Big Ten today. Before we move on, I've got a live action going on outside of the Big Ten. Went back to the well, took a swing with Vermont again today up against Ball State. I played it safe got cheap and went with the money line instead of laying the points. But they're up 32-19 in the first half right now. So hopefully I'm not what in this game. And it's an easy win for Vermont to start my day off here. So
and good for you too, because again, we talk about here very often, it's hard to go back to the well after a team get you. So good for you to go back there.
Yeah, 1-5 and laying 3.5. I was calling my shot and I played it safe and wanted to avoid any stinky backdoor covers or anything like that. So I went cheap with the money line. But anyways, moving on, Big Ten basketball. Like I said, there's a few really nice games going on today. A few stinkers. Actually, Jackson State, Indiana already underway 9-9 in that one. What was the spread on that one? 27.5 or something like that. Let's see here. Earlier on in the day, actually starting in 15 minutes, Wisconsin and USC. Wisconsin just missed a huge upset to really put a statement on the opening part of their season against Kansas yesterday. If you didn't see it, Kansas with the circus tip-in at the buzzer to in overtime to win that one. So it does appear that after that, and now 4-1, and a really nice stretch so far for Wisconsin. It does appear that Wisconsin is the trendy pick out of this game. Is that interest you into why is this line so short? Let's take USC in this one, or is this maybe closer and Wisconsin, is able to defy a lot of these indicators as far as at least early part of the season? Are you interested in USC in this game?
It's tough to, in a quick turnaround to get again to that level. I talk about it, a heartbreaker against Kansas. Again, USC isn't the USC of old. Scalabrini isn't coming out there. Harold Miner and the crew. But it did open up a pick at a 129, just a tad too high for me for a Wisconsin game. Bet down now to a corrected number of 125. I do see them as 2-point favorites. If you want to jump on the Badgers, please just take the money line. If the money line's a tad too steep, the risk button is your friend. Yeah, you profit a little less, but you also just losing the same amount that you usually bet. God, I guess I would lean Wisconsin, but I don't have a lot of confidence there.
No, and I mean, as far as USC took Tennessee to over, I didn't get a chance to watch that one at all, but USC took Tennessee to overtime yesterday as well and ended up losing. Not quite as heartbreaking as the buzzer beater that Kansas had, but obviously another hard-fought game. So I'm staying away from it. Kind of lean towards USC, but anytime I lean towards betting against Wisconsin, they wake up and it's a 55-50 win in the ugliest game you've ever seen. So I'll leave that one on the desk today. Interested to watch that here in a minute, though. But Coppin State, Maryland, unless you've got anything crazy with that one, $2.98 per KenPom. Coppin versus Maryland, 24. Is that short enough to where why is that so short, or do you think that's a spot on line there?
That's the old first half play and get out of Dodge. I don't have a lot of, again, you want to get rotation time. You want to get those guys in.
Yeah.
Maryland's been a kryptonite forever. As we speak, by the way, all the fantasy guys listen, whatever. And if you're doing DraftKings or FanDuel, this is big as well. Joe Mixon has been downgraded to out for Cincinnati. Roland P. Ryan. Yeah, Mr. P. Ryan in the backfield. So that's huge for me because I do have him in one spot. But getting back to Maryland, yeah, they've been my kryptonite. We've talked about it. I went back last year. There was a game. We had them on a Sunday night. I think it was against Michigan State, and for some reason they were 2-point favorites. And I'm like, come on, guys, are you really? All right, we'll take them. And Michigan State got out 20-2, and to start that game. And then, long story short, Maryland came all the way back, took the lead, and Sparty beats them at the buzzer. But no good feel there at all.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Nebraska and Memphis, 118 per KenPom. Nebraska, they are considered one of the bottom two teams in the Big Ten this year. Memphis, 29 per KenPom. I don't know. This one, Nebraska's going to have a million of these 10 to 13 point spreads all season long. Some days they'll show up. Some days they'll lose by 30. So I don't have too much confidence in them today or either side in this one. I don't know about you. I had a random stat just for Big Ten reference. Former Bulls head coach now and former Iowa State head coach Fred Hoiberg, fourth year at Nebraska, he is 27-68 straight up, Jeff. How long until this may? And of course, it's Nebraska, not a basketball school, but how much more of that type of 27-68? They've got to be a winning record this year, or he might be on the outs this year.
I'm surprised he's still there. Again, it's just the name. Tough to recruit there. God, I mean, just look at the football team now. Look at the basketball team. And they've had flashes where they've come out good to start the year, and then they just can't win in conference play. This Memphis team, Penny's got some horses. If you want my honest 2 cents, I think the number's short, which to me tells me that somehow, someway, Nebraska will probably lose by 8 or 9 or something. KenPom has this game. I just had it. 73-64. It hasn't landed on 9. Nebraska ranked 118th. I've seen worse. Memphis at 29. Again, the number looks short to me. I know the public favorite will be Penny and the Tigers. Call me crazy. Maybe it's a day for Nebraska football and basketball. So who knows?
We can only hope as far as some entertainment. But 118 isn't terrible. It's just, there's 12, teams that are really, really solid in the Big Ten on an average year. This might be a middle-of-the-pack Big Ten team, right? So, and obviously they've got a chance to, win this game or any other games. They can get themselves up into that conversation of, a potential tournament team or probably play spoiler in a few spots here in the Big Ten season. So, at least keep them on your radar for sure there. But one that I'm really interested in taking some action on, Iowa and Clemson. Let's see here. Where's this one at? Iowa and Clemson. Saw it drop down to 7.5 in one or two spots. It was at 8.5. Total of 148.5, 149. Iowa's been shooting the lights out. They've been scoring at 83 or more all 4 of their games. This one scream maybe a time for some regression for Iowa, or did you feel like this one was a little closer to spot on here?
Another one of my kryptonites. I can never get a read on that damn team. Oh God, I'm going. I'll go back a handful of years ago in the tournament, second day of the tournament, so it would have been the final 32. I thought I was a hero Sunday. Grabbed them +8 against Villanova. First flash was 29-7. Thanks for playing. I just can't pick this team. It doesn't matter who's playing on this team. My first instinct, again, a 150 and an 8. Now down to 149. I would lean over. Clemson, another team I could never get right, even with tomorrow's newspaper. They're probably spot on. Iowa, Clemson.
Like you said, I'm not. They're not my kryptonite, but they are that spot where it's like all the indicators in the world will tell you they're due for a 20% shooting night, and then you open it up and they drop 100 on your head. After what they've done so far, now a team total 78.5, and they've scored nothing but 80s, 90s, 100 so far. I took a swing with Clemson, but I would not be surprised to have egg on my face in Iowa. It looks amazing, and maybe it's and now I'm strung out for 4 straight games trying to fade Iowa, and they're before they slow down. But I'm betting on a little offensive regression from them. Clemson can slow it down a little bit, but it's not my favorite play of the day. But I took a swing with Clemson here.
Well, and I'll add to that again. Maybe you sprinkle a little pizza and beer if you're leaning Clemson. Go on the Iowa team total under, because if they get to 80 or more, like you said, they've done pretty well here. Ken Palm's got it 79-71, landed on 150, 76% chance to get the win and cover. Iowa 14th, Clemson 65. Again, Clemson's going to want to cluck it up, muck it up, and slow it down. So I like where your eyes are, though.
Yeah. Again, wouldn't surprise me if they're dropping a 170 win or something like that. But it felt like a spot that I was interested in Clemson there for sure. So Lafayette and Penn State, nothing for me to talk about there. 21.5-point spread. Illinois and who they got? They've got I'm not even sure who that is. It's the Lions, my Lindenwood Lions. And that is a 32-point spread, so I will stay away from that one as well. And then the two big games out of the Big Ten. Let's see here. Purdue and Gonzaga. Is that technically a championship game for that one? Is that the Phil Knight championship game, or is that just a not quite yet, though? It doesn't matter. Purdue 4-0, Gonzaga 4-1, lost to Texas, obviously. They've turned it around and been looking really, really solid. Purdue, in my opinion, I'm not saying they're winning the Big Ten championship by any means. They were probably my most underrated Big Ten team coming into this basketball season. All I know is as far as, obviously Drew Timme and Gonzaga is the guys that are making waves, but there's a man called Zach Edey that is 7'4", that I think could help slow that man down. So I took a little swing with Purdue plus the 6.5. Purdue's got some size. Purdue has, they've got Zach Edey. They've got 4 or 5 other 6'8+ guys as well that they can throw in there. So I think defensively they can give Gonzaga some issues here. Gonzaga obviously very, very good. I'm not discrediting them on that, but I took a swing with Purdue maybe being a tougher matchup than they're used to here in Gonzaga.
I had that game on last night for a while and trying to get a feel and a read on Purdue. And again, as you said, the Edey just clogs up the middle. They dump it down and he scores. I was impressed with Purdue. Now, with that said, I think they're going to have a hard time matching up with the Zags, especially if they get into transition.
Yeah.
If Purdue, I got a 152.5 and a 5.5. The public's all in on the Zags. We know that's an absolute lightning rod. So anyone waiting on Purdue, it's not till 11:30 tonight. There'll be at least 7 at tip-off there. And again, they'll take Gonzaga and the over there. Ken Palm's got it 79-74. Purdue at 22, Gonzaga at 3. Again, tempo will be the key here. I like where your eyes are, though.
And I'm glad you mentioned the tempo, because if they can't stop the transition and Zags are flying up and down the court, then it might be a blowout here, obviously. If you can get Purdue playing their own style of ball here, and honestly, you lose Jaden Ivey, and then everyone thinks they're falling off the face of the earth. They've still got plenty of size. Not as much. Obviously Jaden Ivey's fantastic, but they're still a tough team, man. Like I said, not putting them in the number 1 seed or classic or the Big Ten championship, but this was my most underrated team in the Big Ten here, and they've proved me right so far. And a win here would go further for that. So last one, Oregon and Michigan State. You had Alabama against Michigan State yesterday. Fantastic pick. Your UConn Huskies beat the brakes off of Oregon yesterday. I believe I saw a team record 17 3-pointers made or something along those lines. Is this a spot where you're expecting an Oregon bounce back as far as that outcome? And they lost to Houston prior to that. Obviously, Michigan State could be in a bounce back spot as well. This one seemed kind of oddly short to me, and especially maybe people overreacting to the blowout loss from yesterday in Oregon's case, not maybe reacting much to Michigan State losing to Alabama. They've already seen them handle Gonzaga closely, and then beat Kentucky, obviously, beat Villanova. I'm interested in Oregon here. Am I crazy on this one, or are you taking a second straight fade spot of Michigan State here?
My friend, you're a good learner. You really are. You are an absolute good learner. Meaning this. First of all, we all know the Ducks don't get quacking until the second half of the year. They're a slow starting team. I on our alert yesterday, I clearly stated we didn't have action on the game, but UConn hadn't played anyone. I was interested to see how they fared against a real school. And again, it wasn't a blowout. They took control. They couldn't miss from three. And
Right.
it was a record, as you said, 17 threes there. So I will say this. Everyone that had Michigan State last night against Bama are going to go see what happened to Oregon, and what are they going to do? They're going to go and get their money back and probably double up on Michigan State. And not so fast. I think you're on the wrong side. I'm just trying to find this for you. I want to give you the originals. Oh, no, that wasn't it. All right, come on, eyes. What do you have for opening numbers?
Let's see. I've got, come on now, 3.5 open for Michigan State minus 3.5, I think. And then let's see, total 135.5.
Okay, so first of all, that's an Oregon total number, so that gives you hope there. And God, just what time's that one start, Riley?
11 my time, 12 midnight your time. So it might be on your tomorrow swing there. I was having trouble finding. It was weird. My tracker had issues with Purdue, Gonzaga. I was able to pull this one up for whatever reason. So yeah, it's a late action game here.
70-66 on Ken Palm, and so that goes over the total. Here's what I would suggest. If you had Michigan State yesterday and you want to get cute and you want some action leading up to tomorrow, then go ahead. Good luck. Oregon is the side. There is no doubt in my mind Oregon's in the side. Michigan State won't hit 17 threes. I know that. I mean, I just look at who the hell they've played this year. I mean, it's just comical. Northern Arizona is obviously first game of the year. Then they play the Zags. Then they play Kentucky, and then they play Villanova, and then they play Bama. So again, they haven't lost 2 in a row. I get that. Maybe they win by 1 or 2, but I definitely like where your eyes are with Oregon today.
Yeah, and as far as on DraftKings tracker, on the spread, 88% of the bets on Michigan State, 64% of the money, so a little skewed there. The money line, minus 135, 95 and 95 money and bet split percent on Michigan State there. So I like Oregon in that spot there. So anything else, whether it's Big Ten or anything else that you'd like to mention, that is the, unless you got one of these stinky Big Ten games to mention, that is the entire Big Ten slate, my friend.
I'm trying to pick something up here for you. I just wanted to go to that. There it is.
I got to take my foot in my mouth. Vermont only up by 4 at halftime now after being up by 13. So hopefully I got to take my foot out of my mouth and stop doing that to myself.
Well, hold on. So I might be able to help you out there for a second. Let's see if we get something here for you, Riley. Of course, all these games are starting now. So I was trying to help you out with a
second half line.
Yeah.
I see minus 2.5. Vermont minus 2.5 in the second half there. Up by
what were they favored by before the game started?
3.5.
They're trying to give you the okie doke, to be honest with you. They're trying to give you the fact that you had the big lead, you let them back. If you wanted to secure half your wager, I'd take the other side for a half a unit. Let me see here. 36-32, 73 with a 1. It is 2.5 at DraftKings. You said they were 6-point favorites?
To start the game, 3.5-point favorites.
Oh, 3.5. Okay. So, I mean, I think they're throwing you a curveball, meaning they want you to feel comfortable where Ball State might be the side. You could actually win both if you got cute. You want to put a half unit, say, or whatever, on Ball State plus the 1.5. You have wiggle room. You're technically middle.
That's true.
So
yeah,
something to keep your eyes on
Fair
there.
Fair enough.
What I'm hoping for, it's 1:00 my time, 12 your time. We usually go 4-ish. It's Friday, the weekends here. What I'm thinking out loud, because we have a lot of 3:00, 3:30, 4:00 action. If you want to go 3 my time, which is only 2 hours, I don't know if you have blogs to write and stuff like that.
It's up to if you want to do it earlier. I do have a Bulls blog, but that takes me not much time at all. I can do it after shows. It doesn't matter. So if you want to do it earlier, I'm ready to go.
All right, I will text you. Let's everyone watching and listen. I'm going to plan 3 or 3:30 my time. That gives us 2.5 hours wiggle room to get everyone caught up for what's going on tonight. There's a lot of action: NBA, NHL, college hoops, and college football, and we want to get you on the right side. We don't want you to be the pizza man, and we want to keep your eyes sharp. 3-3 on that Tulane Cincinnati game.
Okay,
looks like an under there for sure. But we didn't talk. I'll wait till tonight. What time's that? That's a 7:30 start. I'll just ask you off the top. Were you surprised the overnight number of Tennessee -3 against Kansas?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me pull up. Yeah.
I've had a lot of people asking me. They're like, Kansas over Kansas.
Yeah.
It's like the Alabama-Michigan State game.
Yeah.
Where you're going to give me the Spartans plus 3.5, 4.5. I'm not saying Kansas isn't the right side. Both teams played overtime. Both teams are real good. I don't think Tennessee is as good as they were last year. We all know about Kansas and their run last year. Did Self come? What is Kansas?
They're 6-0. I think yesterday might have been his first game back.
Okay, so there's another thing too. So just anyone wanting to buy Kansas, you might want to pump the brakes and circle back the wagons around 3 or 3:30, and we'll break that one down. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
All right, from myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from the one and only Riley Magnuson at Riley_Magnuson. We wish everyone a blessed day. Have some fun. If you got leftovers, the nice sandwich of the turkey, the mayo, the cranberry sauce, a little stuffing, that's always a good way to start the day. Action galore. We haven't even talked about the World Cup. I can't believe all the shit that's going on here. It's like, holy cow, who has time to sleep? And
I know.
And shout out to Bernie Fratto, Fox Sports Radio. We were blessed to be on last night at 2:20 my time to 2:30, talking Bill Belichick. Will he retire? Will he won't? As he's chasing Don Shula, and I think he's about 33 wins away. Tough loss by the Patriots last night there. Nice win for the ECSI VIPs with the Vikings money line. So it is what it is. We move on. We turn the pages, and as Bill Belichick says, we're on to Cincinnati. So, from myself, Jeff Dawson, Riley Magnuson, have a great afternoon. Enjoy lunch, and we'll see you in a couple hours.